Welcome to ManageEngine OpManager Plus free training. So we are on the part 4 of the training today. So I'm Kishore Kumar, the technical account manager for ManageEngine ITOM, over here for past 6 years now. And I welcome you all for joining the training today. Today we are on the day 4, and we are now going to discuss about the traffic analysis, network devices configuration management, how a firewall can be monitored and managed, along with IP address management and switch port mapping. The previous activity we covered basics with what is OpManager Plus and how to do a network monitoring and IT infrastructure monitoring, setting up alarms, configuration of reports, network mapping, dashboard presentation, NOC presentation, and so on. So you might visit my previous recordings if you would like to review those, and if you are joining today for the first time on this meeting. So OpManager Plus. Before starting, I'll just like to give a quick brief between the difference of OpManager and OpManager Plus, which we had went through the previous session. But now I will give you a detailed explanation regarding the add-ons. OpManager is a network monitoring solution which takes care of your network and IT infrastructure monitoring. And this is also a complete suite which can take care of the application level monitoring. It can also handle your IP address management, switch port mapper, make sure the flow analysis being taken care and monitored, along with the firewall management and network configuration management. So if you want focusing only on NMS tool, then you can go for an OpManager. And if you want to have a bundled package of all these features clubbed on a single product, then OpManager Plus is the suitable option. And if you have a specific requirement to monitor and opt for a specific add-on, then you have very well options. Go with dedicated network configuration manager, application manager, flow analyzer, firewall analyzer, and OpUtils. OpUtils is nothing but it is the IP address management and switch port mapper. And when we go for a bundled package, wherein you can find a difference in the pricing, as this seems to be more reasonable, and it will be suitable as we go as a multiple add-ons together on a single product. So today, the first topic is going to be the traffic configuration, firewall, and IP address management. So now we went through the complete discussion about the basic of the product, how to add a device in the entire application, how to perform a basic configuration of alerting, notification, and so on. So I purchased an OpManager Plus application, and I just want to enable all these features on the product to make it utilized. So to do this, we have an option on the GUI. It is just an enable option. I'll tell you when this option will be more helpful for you. There is a case that you might have purchased only OpManager, focusing on NMS monitoring, and after certain time frame, you decided to go for other add-ons. And rather than putting a separate installation on the on-prem, you decided to have it on this single product. In this case, you can discuss with our sales team where they can help us in getting the license to be clubbed together as a bundled product. And after that, we can come to the GUI to enable this feature. The steps are pretty straightforward. There is a settings icon on the top. There is a quick configuration link. And here we have the displayed modules. So the modules shown right over here is going to be the add-ons that we can enable it and save. Once saved, it will show up on the screen and you can start to do the configuration, go ahead with the reporting, dashboards, and so on. Let's move back to the slide. So these are all the topics that we are going to cover. Traffic and bandwidth monitoring through the NetFlow analyzer, configuration and compliance management through the NCM, firewall rules and policy analysis through log analysis module, and finally, IP address and switchport mapping through OpUtils. So now jump into the traffic part. So this is a flow-based traffic monitoring. As we discussed on the previous meeting, this flow monitoring helps us to get the information of the traffic flow, and it is using the technology of global flow supported options like NetFlow, SFlow, JFlow, NetStream, RPFix. So these flow technologies are built by a specific vendor, or this is from the global standards. So Cisco, a vendor who designed this NetFlow, and we can see the Juniper devices supports JFlow. And Huawei, they go with the NetStream. And based on the IETF standards, we have the IPFix. So the technology is same. The terminology used depends upon the vendor and the standards in which the flow are built in. So these flows are used to monitor the traffic flow in our environment. So typically this works by sending the flow from the monitored device to the OpManager application install server. And once we receive the flow, the information will be captured from the flow and it will be correlated to present with the detailed information. So generally these flows will be similar to a raw data. So reading this information manually might not be that easy, and it is too tricky to do that. So here on the product, we are supporting the technology-based monitoring rather than focusing on vendor-based monitoring. So any vendor who is supporting the technology, the application is capable to monitor it. So we don't restrict with certain models or vendors. We are open and we provide a wide opportunity of monitoring based upon the technology of here. So real-time traffic analysis, in-depth bandwidth utilization monitoring, and also we have the customized dashboards and threshold configuration to get a detailed reporting. I'll tell you why this flow analysis is most important for any business. As an admin, I'm running a business. I have my employees who is utilizing the internet or the bandwidth. It could be an intranet or internet based upon the business use case. So during the time of setting up the office, I have purchased a certain amount of interface bandwidth from the ISP, and things are going smooth for a long period. All of a sudden, I got a complaint from my team that the usage is very slow. When I try to access any portal or when I try to hover on the internet, I'm not getting the same performance like before. When this complaint rises to the network admin, they have to take an immediate action because it is impacting the production. So the network admin try to identify the usage of the traffic, and once they found it is overutilized, which is beyond some threshold limits, they will go ahead purchase the additional bandwidth to ensure the business run smoothly. So this is the solution what we perform. But after a period of time, maybe after 2 months or 3 months, when the same problem resurface, this is the time when we go ahead, make some analysis to understand why the traffic is highly being consumed, what exactly happened, whether do we have a number of employees increased or the number of systems we are using or increased, which is consuming the traffic. We want to understand that. So these information has to be tracked, and we should aware where exactly all these bandwidth being invested. This is why the flow analysis monitoring is most important, because the traditional monitoring method will let us know how much bandwidth is consumed and what is the traffic information. But the flow analysis is an advanced technology. This is going to help us understand where my bandwidth are invested, whether it is invested on the business-oriented applications website, or it is put on some any kind of social medias or other areas. So we want to keep a track and identify where all these bandwidths are invested. So this is going to help us to save things and avoid purchasing a lot of bandwidth, which is really not needed. So it is going to handle your cost efficient metrics, and also it is going to keep a track of complete network bandwidth usage. So I'll navigate into the GUI. So in the application under the network, we have the flow analysis. So during the previous meetings, we discussed how the flow has to be configured and how this devices has to be onboarded in application for monitoring. And once the onboarding is completed, the inventory appears like this. So I'll open up a firewall, and here it will provide me the summary information and flow details and traffic information. I will show you one reason why the summary seems to be showing us no data. On the very first meeting, we were discussing that flow technology provide the information about the traffic, the application in which it is consumed, the protocol it is used, and source and destination where the traffic has been used, and so on. And also we discussed the importance of SNMP protocol, because technically flow information will not provide the interface name. It will provide us the interface ID, which is technically called as a if index value. So if index value, it is really hard to remember to understand which ID belongs to which interface. So this is the place we want to implement an SNMP configuration. So this SNMP configuration is going to help us get the interface name from the if table. So since the network, we are from the networking background, I'm giving you more jargons for this particular aspect. So from the if table, when we do a query through the SNMP, it will provide us the information of the if index value, if name, if description. Along with it, it will also provide the admin and operational status. So this information is going to be helpful, get the device summary information. On this demo website, I have showed you one firewall which was not configured with an SNMP, so we don't have the device summary data. So we might go to a different device on the flow analysis. Let me check a different router. Let me check for the information right over here. The summaries keep loading. Okay, still the same. SNMP is not configured. So let me move on to the other tabs for the flow details. So after we onboarded network device into the flow analysis, this flow details is going to give us the received flows, dropped flows. So here we can see the graphical representation of it. And on the bottom, we can see the total number of count on the numeric values. And we can go to the traffic tab, and it will provide us the overall device traffic. And similarly, we can see the maximum speed and the average speed for the device. And we have the interfaces being shown here. And yes, we have this graph. In this particular router, I have configured 2 interfaces to be monitored. I can just check or uncheck by selecting it and bring back the required information. And this report can also be exported to PDFs, and also we can email this report to the required mailing address. And here comes to the interesting part of application. So here, this is what I'm referring to. You can see the name of the application here, and it will also provide us the traffic which I have invested on these applications. You can see the complete list right over here. And I can navigate into the protocol tab, and here I see the protocol which has been used by those applications where the traffic has been invested. And the graphical representation will help us to have a quick overview, and the tabular report will give us a detailed information for our internal auditing. And source is the place where we can identify the traffic between the source and destination. So these 2 tabs are available right over here. So it will provide us the IP address from which the traffic passed through. And when it comes to the destination, we can see the destination information of the traffic pass. So QoS policy is also one of the options which we are offering through the flow data monitoring. and it will provide us the information of the traffic and the percentage of traffic over the QoS. Conversation is pretty straightforward. We see the source and destination on a different tab. Right over here, it is a consolidated information wherein the source, destination, the application which passed through the traffic, along with the protocol information are presented on a single view. And we have a view option. It's an AS view. So this will help us to get the traffic view information to be similar to the conversation and the graphical representation. And we have security, cloud services, users, and as we were discussing, this application is capable of correlating with multiple add-ons. The last two options are representing NCM and SPM. So I will be taking you through this add-ons on the later stage of the presentation today, and I will explain you this part at that time. So traffic pattern analysis. So now I onboarded my devices. I get my traffic information over here, but I want to understand the pattern, whether it is a linear pattern or there is a sudden spike of traffic consumption over a period of time. I want to understand this. So this traffic pattern analysis is achievable through the machine learning feature we offer on the application. So this will get the traffic information, and there is also a deviation value which we can configure, through which the application can go ahead and perform the traffic pattern analysis. So I will show you in the GUI. From settings, NetFlow, I can go ahead with the options of getting this mapped. And once I have this information right on the device, I'll go to the network, flow analysis, go to the devices, maximize, open up one interface. Okay, here I have one interface. I'm going to the traffic options. So this is the interface based data. So the previous navigation, what we have seen is based on the network device. Inside the network device, we have multiple interfaces. This is for a specific interface. So here we have the traffic pattern analysis. If I go to the traffic pattern analysis, the blue color represents the normal link information and the red color represents the anomalies of the upper usage. And using this, we can try to identify how the traffic is getting spiked, whether it is on a linear pattern or it is on a high spike information. We can try to get the information on the pattern analysis. And we have a forensic report. So forensic report will capture all the data. Say, for example, it will focus on the raw data information. So syslogs, whenever it is sending to the application, the syslog will be stored for a particular period of time, after which the syslog will be overwritten or it will be aggregated, depends upon the configuration, because we cannot store the raw data for more long period. So in application, we have a flexibility to store the raw data for maximum 1 week of duration. That option is available. So we can make use of this application to store the raw data as per our requirement. So here is the option where I can store it. So the default configuration is 1 hour and maximum we can push it to 1 week. And also I have an option to select for which devices I want this raw data configuration has to be enabled. But very important thing, if I'm increasing the raw data retention period, that is going to store all the raw data for the specific period of time, which will increase the disk where the data is stored. So we have to configure a server with higher specification to make sure that the data is accommodated and we don't run out of disk space. And here we have a self-monitoring feature that will help us to notify if the disk space is running out of free percentages. We can set the value right over here and we can enable the notification alerting and save it. So this will help us to get notified before we ran out of the disk space. And we also have some advanced features, that is ASAM, that is a secured monitoring feature, which we are offering it on the product, and we have deep packet inspections. So deep packet inspection is nothing but an agent that we want to install it. So the data will be monitored and collected through the agent. And NetFlow generator. NetFlow generator is a case in some devices, say for example, in some layer 2 Cisco devices and other networking devices, the flow technology is not supported. In that case, if we still want to monitor, then we can utilize the NetFlow generator option by clubbing with the deep packet inspection, so that we can monitor the flow information through the port mirroring and get the data through the NetFlow generator. NetSpeed tracker is a real-time monitoring wherein we can get the data on the real time, and it will keep us monitoring the information and keep you updated on it. So here we are completing with the flow monitoring, and we are going to the next part. And before that, I just want to inform you, this flow monitoring, when we go deep into it, it is also one of the big product wherein we require a few days of training to navigate all the options and perform the configuration. But our agenda is to complete the entire OpManager Plus. So we have arranged a dedicated training for each add-ons, like the NetFlow Analyzer, Firewall Analyzer, OpUtils, and so on. So if you are interested in getting the training for the individual add-on, please do let us know. On the chat panel, you will be sent a link for the registration. And also, if you're interested, you can put it on the chat. So our teammates will help you for the registration process. So this agenda is going to be completely focusing on the overview of this add-ons, which we are offering it on the application. Okay, let's get into the topic. So now the monitoring is completed. And the next part is we need to get notified if there is a problem being reported. And also we need the reports to be taken for. So the reporting section and the notification section is available on the GUI, wherein we can go to settings for the NetFlow Analyzer, wherein we can do the configuration of the basic settings. And here we have the options of product level configuration. For example, if I want to do an IP resolution, or if I want to do a DNS cache, it can be performed over here. And also we have a alerting profile right over here. So the alerting profile, we have multiple options, whether we want to get a real-time alerting, or if you want to get the reporting for the aggregated data. Even for the traffic pattern, we have the option over here, and we also have the security options to be enabled. So all these options we have to add, we have to select a profile, and then we have to define the information. Say for example, I want this alerting profile to be configured for a single interface. I have an option to select for single interface. When I want to make it for a group of interface, I have it here. And below, I can provide the threshold limits. So this is the alerting configuration that we can go ahead with it. And then we have the reporting options. In reporting, if I go to NetFlow Analyzer, I have my reporting options to be configured. For example, I can go for a forensic report. So once I enable the forensic report, the application's ML feature will monitor the trend, and then it will provide the forensic data, the prediction data information. And also we have a capacity planning report, similar to the one which we have seen on the OpManager application. The capacity planning will provide us the information whether we are overutilized or underutilized, whether the traffic which we have configured for an environment, is it something we want to increase, or it is already highly configured, and whether we want to drop it down so that we can play with the budget and cost related information. So all these information are available right over here on the screen, and you can navigate into each options to get the reporting feature. Next, moving on to the configuration and compliance management through the Network Configuration Manager. So network configuration manager is a common terminology that we use to handle the configurations of the network devices, like the startup configuration and the running configuration. So why this network configuration manager is most important in any business? I'll let you know about it. So a network admin who is given in charge to work on the networking devices. For example, we know SNMP is something, a common protocol which is used in most of the areas in terms of monitoring and for other metrics. So a network admin was assigned with a task to configure the SNMP service on the networking devices. As we know, version 1, version 2 is not something much used on the real-time business, and we are focusing more on the version 3. So if a network admin is going to log in into each network device, disable the version 1 and version 2 of SNMP, and he's going to configure the version 3, the manual task is really a time-consuming job. If it is just 1 or 2 devices, it's totally fine. But if we have thousands of devices, then he needs some automation to be provided so he can perform the job effectively. This is where we have this network configuration manager. So in this network configuration manager, the network admin was given a lot of features and options which will be helpful to make his life easier. So in any network device, the admin can get the running configuration and the startup configuration. So this is most important. Whenever I'm working on an environment, depends upon the configuration, what I have put it on the networking devices, it is going to play and it is going to give us the results. So this configuration is most important for any network admin to work on it and keep a track of it. So this application can monitor the startup configuration and running configuration, and it can take a periodic backup on a scheduled basis. So if we want to roll back the configuration to any of the backups which we have taken on a specific duration, it can be done through the application rather than logging into the network devices by taking a PuTTY connection or other source. And also other important business requirement is a network admin. There will be one network admin. He will be the complete in charge, and there will be some members reporting to him on the same team. So the senior network admin was giving a job or task to his members, saying that he want to reconfigure the startup configuration or running configuration. So for some n number of networking devices. So whenever practically in a business, when this job is assigned, the admins will configure the startup or the running configuration, and then it has to be validated by the senior admin who has given the task. And after the validation, this configuration will be put on the network devices and a reboot of the machine will be performed to take the changes effective. After the configuration change, for some reason, the network device or the traffic in it is not working as expected. For some reason, things are being compromised in a way that the performance has been impacted. So in this case, it is really a tedious job because we want to understand what is the new configuration which has been implemented and what is the difference between the old configuration and new configuration. This will be help us to understand which has impacted the change. So if this is happening for 1 or 2 devices, the admin has to sit and manually work on these configurations, and then he has to do a final reporting and do the reconfiguration activity. And if this is happening for multiple devices, of course, the production will be impacted until we fix this problem. This is the reason the configuration management tool is going to help us for a business. So whenever a configuration change has been performed in the networking devices, the application will know about it and it will notify us that on so and so date and time, there is a configuration change has been detected. And if this configuration is not being performed by the authorized person, we can also override the configuration to the previously taken backup from the application GUI. And also we have a cofiglet option right over here so that we can create and users provide a role so that the users can write the configuration, put it for a validation, and then the application will do an auto scanning by comparing with the previous configuration to see whether it is something validate, is it something good to proceed. It will give us a suggestion. And finally, the super admin, the one who is in charge of all the networking devices, he can go ahead and validate and push the configuration from the application GUI. And after pushing the configuration, he can keep it under monitoring. And if he want to roll back to the previously taken best configuration backup, the network admin can do it at any time. So this will save the time. This will stop impacting the production issues. And also it will keep a track and maintain what configuration we have on the networking devices. So I'll show you it on the GUI, the navigation. On the network, we have the configuration management. So these are all the devices under the inventory. So I'm navigating into any one device. So the summary looks like this. In this page, on the config changes, we can see the date and time of the configuration change happened and what type of configuration it was. Is it a running configuration or a startup configuration? All these information can be seen here. I can further navigate into it, and I can also see the configuration information on the page. Along with it, on the options menu, I can go and see the difference information. So this is the difference between the baseline configuration and the current changes which we have made. So if there is something which we found abnormal or something we found it is wrongly configured by our team, then we can go ahead and make the necessary changes. And also it can provide you the exact row where this changes has been made. So this is applicable even for the startup configuration, running configuration, and we can get the difference for the baseline one. So all these information can be fetched over here. And if you want to export the configuration, it is available. And also if you have written the configuration and want to upload it on the product to push this to multiple devices on a bulk method, that is also possible. And all these information is possible using this network configuration manager. And of course, whenever we are making the process, we feel that a certain configuration is really more stable, which is making the production go smoothly without any impact for a long time. If we feel there is one best configuration that we have put on the networking devices, then it can be set as a baseline configuration. So anytime when we are making changes, we can do the comparison with the baseline to get more information about it. So this application is not only stopping with the configuration management, it also helps us to get the firmware vulnerability and the compliance information. So the firmware vulnerability, we have a standards. The application is maintaining the standards, and using the standards, it is providing the CVE information. This will not work like a real-time antivirus tool. Rather, this application will update the global CVE data every day, and it will compare the application with the devices and see what is the version of the device and see our device is unimpacted with any vulnerabilities. This information will be provided on the firmware vulnerability. And also we have a compliance where it will provide us a compliance standards and also the criticality of it. So this tool, when we have it on the business and when we have any network devices onboarded in it, it will manage our configuration and it will make the network management so easy that the network admins can use this tool as a single platform to upload the configuration, back up the configuration, make any changes, understand the change detection. Everything can be taken care on the single tool. Along with it, they can also take care of the networking device, whether it is free from vulnerability or compliance, whether we want to update the firmware versions or what needs to be done to overcome the compliance and vulnerability information. So all these are provided on a single bucket, and this information is available for the product. If you want to take this report on for bulk of devices, under the reports NCM, we have the information of the compliance. So this will provide the consolidate data for all the information on a single platform, and also we can see the firmware upgrade histories. So if there is any kind of firmware upgrade being performed to overcome the vulnerabilities, that information can also be seen over here. And most importantly, it will provide us the end of life updates. If the network device that we're using on the business is going to be an end of life or end of support by the respective vendor, that information can also be monitored and we can take care of it right over here. I'll go back to the slide. So this is the information which we discussed: firmware vulnerability, enforcing the compliance, and cofiglet. So cofiglet is nothing but the one which I have referred, where the admin can go ahead and make the changes. So here is the configuration. So in the CLI cofiglet, these are all the default configlets which currently being available on the demo website. So from here, I can click on the execute option. I can choose the devices, maybe a single device, or I can choose devices based upon the groups, and I can push this configuration changes to multiple devices on a single go. Let me move back to the slide. Firewall rule and policy analysis with Firewall Analyzer. Okay, so on the very first day, we had a glimpse of firewall related discussion, why the firewall analyzer is important and how it has to be utilized for any business. So let me go to it once again. Once I purchase the firewall for the very first time, that is not going to have any kind of rules configured on it. It is the admin that will make the configuration on the firewall. That is a rule configuration, depends upon the security team's advice and based upon the business standards, whether we want to allow certain IPs or deny certain IPs, whether it has to be internet restricted and it has to be work only on intranet. All these informations are totally vary for each business. So whenever we purchase a firewall from any vendor, as we all know, there's going to be no rules configured on it. And the rule configuration is done. Firewall is working fine. Things are going smooth. But after a month or after a year, is it something necessary that we want to revisit the firewall rules that we have configured on the firewall devices to understand whether it is still coping up with the new structure or new employees being onboarded, or increase in the devices that we are using on the environment? Because the day one when we start an office or a business, the amount of employees and network devices and the restrictions or the things will completely vary when the business grow over a period of time. We might be geographically spread across locations after a period of time, or there might be multiple offices, multiple buildings. And each time when we grow, each time when we expand our business or make a changes within the domain, we want to make sure that the rules configured on the firewall also has to be updated, depends upon the changes we make on the business. So every time when an admin is going to work on this firewall rules, he has to manually log into the firewall, understand what was a previously configured rule, and he has to manually write down the new rules which is going to be suitable for the business. So this is a manual job. Another thing, we want to understand how the rules on the firewall is being used. For example, I created a rule. The rule is on the line 30, for example. But every time my traffic is passing through the firewall, the rule 30 is something highly utilized. So every time it will pass through from the rule 1 to 29, it will reach 30 and will pass the traffic. So this is one time consuming job. And inside your firewall, this is going to take time to read all the rules and reach the actual destination one. And then the request will be agreed to get into the network. So the rule order is most important. We want to make sure how the rules on the firewall is being written, whether it is properly optimized to ensure that all the traffic is passing through is hitting the rule 1 and getting into it, because the most used traffic, the most used rule has to be on the number 1 and followed by the number 2 and number 3. The least used rules has to be on the bottom. So this ordering is most important for any business to make sure that we utilize, we make sure the optimization on the firewall is performed on the proper level. So this rule management is most important. And also we want to keep a track of the information which has been denied based upon the rules, and is there any anomaly being detected, and whether we want to do a periodic rule cleanup depends upon the current business status, so that we can optimize things and make sure things are working fine. So this is the reason why we want to implement a firewall analyzer. On top of it, the firewall analyzer can also do a security audit and provide the compliance information similar to network configuration management. So I believe there might be a small confusion, because when I start with the presentation, I was discussing about NetFlow analyzer and discussing about flow monitoring. Then I jumped into the configuration management of the networking devices. Now I moved on to the firewall analyzer. So as I mentioned before, we might have a specific requirement, or the business might have a global requirement. So if the business have a global, in general, whenever any business, any company, we will have servers, networking devices, there will be a security audit needs to be taken care. A lot of things will be clubbed together. So if we have one solution to handle everything on the go, then that is the OpManager Plus. But if I'm focusing on a specific area, say for example, if I'm not a guy who want to look into the flow details or configuration management, because there might be an internal tool which we developed by our internal developers to handle it. And if I'm focusing only on a specific area, then we can go for a specific product rather than purchasing the entire application. So here, generally, if there is a person who is managing the firewall, I believe you might be having the auditing process. Maybe once in a month or once in a couple of months, the auditor will come. He will do the firewall rule analysis. He will generate the auditing report and he will submit it. I'm not sure how many of us are still following this traditional method of hiring an auditor to read the firewall rules and provide the audit report to make sure that all these informations are properly working. So now we have everything on the product. No need to go for an external auditor to make sure that our environment is free from vulnerabilities and all these stuff. Here we have this information on the firewall analyzer. So this application can do this job. It can get you the compliance report and make sure that we are handling our own company and own business, and we generate our own security and audit reports. So this will be more helpful for the security team to make sure that the tracking information are kept within our limits, because we are not exposing this information to any external auditors or other persons to look into our network and get this information. Rather, if you put this on-premise application on your business, this on-premise application is going to get this information, and whatever data the product is performing, it is going to stay within your intranet and no intranet, and it will just store this information on the database which is hosted in your server. So the security is more important right over here, because nowadays zero trust is the most booming thing, which I would say, because we can't rely or we can't trust anyone. That is the concept of it. So when it comes to security aspect, we have to keep track. We have to hold the complete informations of our business. So this application of firewall analyzer is going to do your auditing purpose, compliance purpose, no dependency of external auditors, and this application can do things by its own. So log analysis is something I was referring to, and we'll move back to the IP address management and switchboard mapper. So one more time, I'm just referring you. So this meeting, this training is going to be an overview. I may not get into each options and navigate because of the time constraint. So this is the reason we have a dedicated training for each add-ons that you can sign up and you can have the training session to be attended. So there we will explain each and every add-on in detail, and by navigating into the application and more information, which you can gain more application level features and so on it. IP address management and switchboard mapper with OpUtils. Okay, this is something a network admin should look for. Once I purchased a subnet, I'll do the subnetting. Once I purchased an IP, sorry for that. Once I purchased an IP, I'll do the subnetting. And I assign the subnets to individual departments. And each and every IP is inside the subnet. I will keep a track whether this IP was assigned to which employee or a device and what is the MAC information. And obviously, I will get to know whether it is currently being used or free. So this information is a manual tracking method. For example, if a new employee is joining into an organization, we have to assign an IP address for him to the new machine that he is going to use for our company organization. So every time a new employee is onboarded or a new employee is being going out of the office, we have to remove the IP mapping for that employee, the one who left the office. And then we want to provide a new IP mapping for the employee who joined the office. And if the devices are getting increased, if one employee is given with multiple test machines or multiple devices for the testing purpose, then we have to assign an IP and we have to keep a track of the MAC information. So traditionally, this has been taken care by updating this information on an Excel sheet. So network admin do that. So they will open up an Excel sheet. They will put the subnets what they have in their environment, and each and every IP is present on the subnet, and which IP is currently available, which IP is currently used. If it is used, well, it was assigned to which MAC address, MAC of the devices, and all the data are kept track. So now, what would I say? All these things can be automated using this IP address management and switchboard mapper. Here, the product OpUtils, it will scan your subnet and it will get the information of the total IPs present on the subnet and how many IPs are currently being used and how many of them are free. If it is used, what is the MAC? Who is the user to which it is assigned? It will get the data. And it is possible through the SNMP monitoring. And similarly, we do a switchboard mapping. So here the switch or scanned so that we can get to know which port of the switch is used and which one is available. And if any of the port is used, then we can get to know the MAC address of the respective device connected on the port. And also we can get the IP address of the device which is connected on the respective port. So this is going to make sure that we don't miss any IP address, and we have a complete tracking that how much we purchased and how much subnetting we have done on the environment, and how many of them are used and how many of them free, and who is using the IPs. This information will be kept on track. And also, most important, we also need a rogue detection feature. For example, we have computers maybe on the or laptops that we might be doing a hotspot or something else like that. And also there is a scenario, just imagine someone is visiting your office, maybe a ManageEngine team. I'm visiting your office to give a presentation or demo, and I'm requesting for you to give me an internet access for your environment to do the presentation. So trusting me, you gave me an internet access and I'm using it for a short period of time. And once I left your organization, as I told before, zero trust. Is it something that you can assure that I will never be connecting back to your internet in the future? About it. We need security. So we want to ensure that no one is connect to our internet without our permission or without our acknowledgement. So what we do here, let's do a rogue detection. If someone is trying to connect with our internet or to our infrastructure, this application will trigger an alert saying that there is a rogue device, that is someone is trying to connect, and this is the MAC information of the device, and all the device data will be fetched. So you can look into the device, and if the person is a guest who visited the office just for some presentation or onboarding, you can assign the person as a guest for a certain period of time. Maybe like 1 hour, 2 hours, depends upon the duration that he's going to be in your office. And once done, the IP will be blocked. The MAC will be blocked. The person cannot, the MAC will be blocked. The person cannot get into your network again in the future. So this is how we will do it. So in the application, I will show you the GUI. I go to network. I go to the IP address management. So here on the IP address manager, I'm opening up a switch. So this is how the screen looks like. After scanning the switch, I get all my IP address being listed over here. I'm further navigating into it. So here I'll be getting the details. What is the status? So transient, you see here transient, right? So transient is the status that a person is connected to the IP and now the connection is disconnected. So there is a kind of a buffer time for the next one. It is a kind of lease IP address, I would say. So we are giving the buffer time for the next person to get connected. So this is a transient status. So I'm moving back to the switch port mapper. Okay. So on the network, I'm going to the switch port mapper. So these are the options. If you want to access your OpUtils, you go to network, IP address management. Here we have 3 tabs: IP address management, switch port mapper, rogue detection. In switch port mapper, here I'm opening up a switch. So it will show the information of the available switches and the status of it. And if it is a used switch, I will get to know the complete information of the connected devices on it. For example, this is a used switch and I get to know the MAC address. This is our demo website. So you won't see the real-time data right over here. So in your environment, you will see the connected IP, DNS of it, and the vendor. So all these information can be seen right over here. You can also see the port view. Here you can see the pictorial representation of the used port and the free port. And here we also have the port history. So in this port history, it will get us know the historical information of the connected ports and IP to the respective port details. And alerts is a place, say for example, if there is any changes being detected on the switch, this alert tab will help us to show this information. So now I'll go to the rogue detection option on the network, IP management, rogue detection. So here you see a lot of devices being showing up on the rogue devices. So we can open up any one rogue device, for example. So this is the MAC of the device which tried to connect. So I can see this information. So when was actually on the real time, it will show up when was the last it connected, IP address, and if possible, it will try to fetch the system object ID, system name, and description as well. And we can either acknowledge or we can deny. For example, here it will show the 1130 discovered rogue devices. So here we have the complete list of data. So these devices try to connect. However, the application has identified it as a rogue and not allowing to proceed so. So here you have a single management console where you can keep track of these information and monitor it further. So IP address management, the discovery part we have discussed on the very first meeting. We can go to add the subnet giving the IP address. And also we have the DHCP servers can be monitored on the product. Okay, so this demo website currently don't have that information. So here we will have the data of it.